This is what you've all been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. Joanna French, our research coordinator.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, participants and community partners. Well, it's been a long and wonderful year. We've had a fabulous time, as you could see this morning when we were here. There was a lot of love in the room, a lot of potential in the room, and we were privileged to be part of it, and we must thank Citizenship and Immigration for the opportunity to do this project. It was envisioned as a research project, but of course the participants got to benefit from the process, so it was a win-win for everyone. So the problem with the way it's set up now is that the screen is here and the button is there, so I'm going to be nodding at Carol over there. So initially when I had started to think about this process, I thought that we might do an action research activity, but I don't think there's enough people to do the activity that I had envisioned. So I was going to put you into table groups, and I was going to give you a topic, and you were going to debrief it, and then you were going to present. And I thought that would be like a lived experience of what it was like to be a participant in the Vision program. However, that's not the way it's unfolded, and that's okay because we all have to learn to be adaptable and flexible, don't we? So the first slide, if you could just, this is what it was going to be like. And the reason I did that was in part to talk about the handouts that I was going to give you. We're talking about the various issues that are presented around the issue of newcomers in Canada. And we heard them very eloquently speak yesterday when they were talking about, we had a little exercise at the end about if you were the Prime Minister, what would you do? And that's some very cogent and piercing things to say about what they would do with how their struggles and their hopes to advance that a little bit faster and a little bit more smoothly. So the action learning process would have entertained some of these concepts. So if you could take me to the next slide. Carol? The next one? Oh, okay, just for a second. This is our participants doing a speed networking exercise in this room with all the chairs in a circle with the two concentric circles but facing each other. And it was amazing because we had 55 people talking to each other. You know that little elevator speech that you're supposed to always have in your back pocket wherever you are to promote your employability and general wonderfulness. They were to practice that with each other, and they had 3 minutes. So you can see in this case, it's Maria and, help me? Sinas. And you can see the eye contact, and if you look at the room, it's all the way around the room. They are just totally into it. They are totally engaged in the process of talking, listening, expressing, influencing, and generally speaking, moving out of their comfort zone. It was an amazing exercise. That's action learning at its very best. So if we can take you to the next page. This was the action learning model, which is sort of appropriate that because we're doing an action research process, that our presentations and our activities would also be action learning. And because in adults, experiential and hands-on learning is really where change happens. So the long-suffering presenters to our program got a very long and extremely complicated PowerPoint from me asking them to modify their presentation to inculcate these elements into their workshops, which they very obligingly did. But I think it really made a difference to the participants. So basically what I was going to have you to do today was connect with an actual real live experience, and so that you own it, right? Then you'd have to own it, and then you'd have to figure out what would I do with this issue, whether it's highly educated professionals not finding jobs, or people who are not represented in the political spectrum, or a range of issues. Then I was going to ask you to share with each other, and then I was going to ask you to come up with some insights and recommendations to present to the larger group. So that's kind of higher order thinking, as well as a lot of communication skills, a lot of practice in expressing your ideas. So that's how we worked here. And I think you can see today, when you have Salman Ashrat, who spoke from the heart at the end of our morning session, that the first day she came here and spoke, she was shaking. And today, she was glowing. So, okay, next slide. Now, people who know me well will know that this is the kind of quote that I often say. I would not give a fig for simplicity, this side of complexity, but I would give my life for simplicity on the other side of complexity. And let's face it, this is an incredibly complex situation and set of issues that we deal with when we deal with the whole issue of immigration and integration. It's not just one issue. So to drill down to find insights is challenging, to say the least. So anyone who's been here, many people have come as newcomers who are now Canadians for many years, people who have just come to Canada, or myself, who is a sixth-generation Canadian on one side, and who my great-great-grandfather came to Canada with a land grant that was in a swamp on Lake Simcoe, and unfortunately for him, an Indian reservation, and was chased away with bows and arrows and went back to England. So we all have roots, though, everyone in this room, in another place, right? It's easy to forget that we all come from somewhere else. So, the next slide, please. Multicultural mosaic and integration. I've been listening to a really interesting podcast from TVO. I think the whole issue of immigration, integration, mosaic, assimilation, melting pot has become a really bit of a hot topic. And for us, I think in this program, what we're looking for is integration. And Canada has embraced the idea of mosaic, and it isn't a picture of great beauty, but it is of disparate parts. Sometimes they make a picture, and sometimes they're just little bits, right? So I guess the challenge for us in this century is to create a picture of something that holds more promise and more potential for our newcomers. So there is, within this picture, all these elements of inclusion, tolerance, equity, sharing, belongingness, opportunity. But I always think there is a sense, I feel at the moment, of that it could all not fall apart, but it is at a moment of risk, and I think we need to pay attention to that. So that's my little speech for now. So that's my context for approaching this whole subject. Now the project itself is person-centered. My background as a change specialist is that all change begins with you. So no matter how many other external things happen, if you're not ready to move forward, then you're not ready. You're not going to move forward. So the approach has been here to make sure that we always demonstrate in our relationships with each other, as staff, with our community partners, and with our participants, a sense of collaborative, reciprocal trust, openness, and our goals are to make sure that the esteem and the confidence and the communication skills and real leadership, which we saw all the time in our community, in our groups, is constantly fostered and grown, because really the world leaders are coming to Canada to share their wealth with us, their personal potential with us. So it was one of our outcomes to actually foster that, and I think that was one of our goals. And so one of the things we did as we were going through the process was constantly saying, is this exercise take us there? Does it help people with their communication skills? Does it help them with their self-awareness? Does it help them with their growth as like the subtext of the content, right? So this really was, we tried to be transparent in our own way to be sure that we, in our, as we staffed it and as we shared with the participants, we were open. We asked for feedback. We asked questions. We constantly went into action and practice. And we tried to own it, and we tried to share the ownership with our participants, which I think is a really important thing. Because if you know me well, you know that one of my favorite sayings is, we own what we help to create. And if we don't have a sense of ownership, we will walk away and we will not be changed. And things will not be sustained.